great Bobby Belt.
You ruined the morning show.
Don't make me take off my belt.
Don't make me take off my belt.
We're not. Over to you, Bobby.
Oh, boy. We got real deal football today, RJ Choppy.
Oh, baby. Do we?
Sort of, as close as you can get. Doesn't it feel like the joint practice is more of a football experience than the preseason game? Like,
yeah, because you're actually seeing the starters play.
And they get chippy, and they get a little angry, a little on edge, stuff like that. So we're actually going to get that today when the Los Angeles Rams and the Dallas Cowboys show up for a practice. Now, here's the question. Now that the Rams have been out there for a while, Chop, what do you think the split is in the stands, the fan split? It's not been the greatest showing for Cowboys fans out there yet.
Yeah, I wonder with this because I have no frame of reference on right now on what the crowds are like week 2. You know, other than the videos you can see. It's still during the day on a weekday. I would assume it's 60-40 Cowboys.
Okay. I think that might be – I think 60-40 would be a disappointment.
Why?
Because typically the Cowboys have run SoCal more than the Rams have. It's just this year things might have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
We will get to more details on the Cowboys and Rams practice and get to Brian Broaddus here in just a moment.
He's here.
But before we do, Brian Broaddus is not here. He's in Oxnard. He's sitting on those tennis courts out there.
Menard.
So, Brian, you're going to miss the G-Bag Nation remote at Hurtado Barbecue today. But I wanted to be a good teammate, so I'm going to go up there at 2 o'clock, and I'm going to hang out for an hour. So I'll be there in your stead for the first hour. Not on the air, I don't think, but like just hanging out at least. And anybody who wants to go out there and see your G-Bag Nation teammates, 2 to 7 p.m. Central today at Hurtado Barbecue in Mansfield, and then get one of those nice etched G-Bag Nation glasses thanks to Stella Artois.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, and good morning to you both.
Morning.
The glasses are beautiful. Hurtado has great barbecue, and we're going to have a really good broadcast today because you guys mentioned we got the Rams practicing today. So the first 2 hours of the show, I'm going to be hanging out with the guys, and then I'm going to go away for a couple hours, and then come back in the 6 o'clock hour, and then recap this thing as we put a bow on it. So. Ooh. Should be a fun-filled day of football talk. I'm sure we'll do a little Rangers talk and Olympic talk. That seems to be the direction our show's going these days.
Yeah, it'll. It's been good shows. I gotta say, I'm genuinely. This is no fluff. I've genuinely been impressed with how you guys have handled the interaction of a big show while having one person remote. That can be a difficult thing sometimes.
We learned how to do this during that pandemic.
You figured it
out.
Yes, we did.
It's amazing.
The Zoom stuff, it wasn't perfect by any means, but I think folks are a little bit more accepting of like, okay, they're trying. It's not perfect, but literally before, I'm sitting here listening to you guys do the segment before, and then Peyton goes 1 minute, and the thing then dropped. And so now I'm scrambling to get back online, Peyton working with me, and here we are. So, it's not perfect, but it is doable. I love being out here. You know that.
Yeah, and we love having you out there, and that you'll have eyes on this Rams practice first day. Before we get to that, I know you did a deep dive, a film study on the three guys that the Cowboys signed. You said, I'll be back with reports in hand for you on Thursday morning. Tell us who we have, and are any of these guys potential 53-man roster guys?
Yeah, the one guy, I don't want to just drone on and on and on about what these guys could do, but I was surprised that, to me, that the linebackers, that they went after a couple linebackers. That surprised me. I kind of felt like that watching these practices, that these linebackers have done a good job from the top one to, the last one in the room. But, to go out and get Nick Virgil, a veteran guy, and then you go get Darius Harris, they're both kind of special teams guys in a way. You have to go back, and especially with Harris, they don't play a lot of defensive snaps, and so you have to go back and watch special teams, work with them. But, the thing about with these guys, they do have experience with the staff, and they can play special teams. If they're worried about, okay, do we have enough guys that we feel good about on teams. Do we need a couple more veteran guys than maybe some younger guys? This might be the way they go. If you had to tell me which one might be a little bit better player, if happened to play more defensive snaps, I think Nick Virgil would be the guy. He's a guy that kind of fits in the mold of what they're doing here with linebackers that can cover. And that's where I feel like that, the run game stuff for him is good. He's not as fast nor as quick as what you would have with this group here. When you watch these linebackers play at camp, they really run to the ball. And Nick is more of a see it and go guy, but it's not going to be with the burst or that quickness. But he's a really good tackler. And as I mentioned, he played in all the special teams. Harris is a big guy. And, he's got his ability is more straight ahead than it is lateral quickness and things like that. I think the straight ahead speed is really, really good. And, he's a guy I mentioned that plays on all the teams. The quickness is good. And, but when you watch him play, and especially on special teams, he tends to hold. So when a guy is always that grabby, it kind of tells you that maybe.
Oh, no.
It makes you say, that's the Cowboys. They're going if we just signed a guy that's going to be prone to penalties, you're not going to say that, Brian. I think Chris Beam went over there and was just trying to protect the Cowboys from having to get out that Darius Harris is a little grabby, and they went, pull the plug on this. We're not having this.
Not a fan.
That's what they were doing. We do have Cowboys and Rams practice coming. I will say this about Darius Harris, by the way, who Brian was just talking about there from Kansas City. I do wonder, he mentions that Nick Vigil is more of a coverage linebacker, falls more in line with what they want to do. Harris is a guy who has some pass rush ability, in my opinion. And so I wonder if, Chop, he's a 6'2", 240 guy with 34.5-inch arms, which for reference, I think Micah's 31 5/8 or something. He's a little shorter.
Micah's the same height, right?
Micah's the same height, and so you've got then Darius Harris, who has longer arms than even Micah, at by 3 inches, even though they're about the same height. DeMarcus Lawrence, for instance, who's a
DeMarcus
guy.
Ware had super long arms.
Well, DeMarcus Lawrence, his arms are about a half inch to an inch shorter than Darius Harris, who's a 6'2" linebacker. So there's a lot of length there. There's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of bend. I think Harris the plan with him might be not just special teams, but hey, maybe they have some sort of a vision for situational pass rush if he has to take defensive snaps. And so I think that's part of where his fit might be for them, is just with that. Now, we do have a list. You know what I've said? Everybody loves lists.
By the way, you said that you liked the joint practices more than the preseason games, right?
Yes, 100%.
I wonder what a guy like Broaddus, who's been in the league for so long, if he likes these joint practices a lot, or because they get chippy.
Yeah, but don't you like that? I mean, McCarthy doesn't.
Is there a danger to it? Let me ask you that. Is there a danger to them? Do you risk them getting hurt more in these with some stupid, unnecessary fight or cheap shot than you would in a preseason game?
Maybe. I've got a little bit of the opinion that football's football.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We can get Brian Broaddus' thoughts on it here. Brian, the joint practices.
Yes.
In your opinion, as somebody who's been around the league, do you view them as way more beneficial than a normal practice, or do you look at yourself as hey, some of the juice and the intensity we can get there, it opens you up to potentially some recklessness, like Mike McCarthy has talked about this week, that hey, I don't want to see any fights out there.
I'm not going to see my starters play on Sunday.
Right.
So this is a really good opportunity for me to see my son. I would play joint practices before I'd play preseason games if it was me.
Okay.
Just because you can control the tempo of the practice, and you can control your quarterback not getting hit, and you can control a lot of things. Yeah, the chippiness comes from, I think what happens is you have to have two coaches. Like when Jeff Fisher brought his team in here. Mm-hmm. Jeff Fisher's kind of a thug coach, And
yeah,
so
Jeff sucked.
And so what happens is he's always going to try and show how big his thing is, that kind of thing. When you practice against him, it's always going to be a fight. And so you got to lay out ground rules. This is not something you talk about the day before. This is something you've talked about weeks in advance. That listen, we're interested in working with you, but this is how we play. Like the Cowboys here, when they practice, they go 1 versus 1s. Well, maybe the Rams don't do that. Maybe the Rams go. Maybe their 2s go against their 1s. So you got to kind of have to agree. Like, are we going best offense on best defense? How are we going to play this out? You got to kind of script out. See, 2 fields will be working, and so you might have 1s and 2s on one field, and then 3s and 4s on the other. And then kind of. But you're always going to be. It's just how you practice. Do you do 9-on-7 run periods? Do you do 7-on-7 pass periods? Do you do 1-on-1 pass rush? There's a lot of things that they have to kind of work through before they can get out here and practice. But I really do like it just from the aspect of I'm not going to see my starters play on Sunday. This is a good opportunity for them to get some work.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions and Giants had a fight. I mean, you could have seen that coming from a mile away. Those coaches are kind of meatheads. Like, you could see that, right?
Yeah, you've got one team trying to establish something, with not established. The Lions have already clearly established who they are. And the Giants we've seen are kind of a team in turmoil, and they've got a coach that's that's struggling to keep his job. They got a quarterback that nobody really likes. There's a lot of things, and a lot has to do with the way the practice. If you practice against a team and it's extremely hot outside, people get irritable when it's hot. I mean, you guys are living it right now. People get mad, and you feel like that you kind of got wronged, and then you're going to take a shot, and the next thing you know, everybody's going to get in a fight, and that part of it. I mean, that part of it, I could do without.
All right, Brian. We're running out of time. I know Choppy still wants one, so just a name for me. When you're out at this practice today, give me the name of the guy that you're really going to be locked in on watching how he practices today.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that Guyton gets the opportunity to practice at left tackle. That's something to me. I'd like to see him against some different competition. He's kind of been working his way back in from his illness right here. I'm interested to see these wide receivers from the Cowboys and how they all have lined up. Since CeeDee Lamb has not been here, though, these guys have shown up pretty well. When you start to talk about Tolbert and Cooks, and then also and Brooks as well, I'm interested to see how like a guy like Jalen Cropper. I think they really are looking to see if they're going to carry 6 receivers. The numbers might not allow it, but there's a lot of guys that have shown up at this camp that need one of those days where like, okay, I see how you're working against us. I like to see you work against some others, and that's where you got to keep your head on the swivel right there.
Broaddus super quick because the Rangers are going to the White House today. When you won the Super Bowl with Green Bay, was that a thing? Did you go? How was it?
I did not make that trip, and matter of fact, we did go to that trip, and there was a lot of players that didn't want to go on that trip. Bill Clinton was the president at the time, and I remember Mark Chmura was one of those guys that spoke out pretty handedly about it. But, yeah, I did meet Bill Clinton, though, when he came on a campaign stop through Wisconsin. He came and visited us at Lambeau Field. So, yeah, that was my well, besides sitting behind George Bush at the World Series, I sat behind him, and then Chief spilled a vodka tonic or vodka soda on his Secret Service guy when he was saying, it was 2 strikes, and he's like, stand up, everybody, let's go. He was like cheering and was spilling drinks on George Bush's Secret Service detail. Yeah.
Thank you, Broaddus. Talk to you tomorrow.
See ya. Bye.